Okay, we'll go ahead and call tonight's meeting to order. If able, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Mayor Pape,
Here?
Councilmember Shavetta,
Here.
Councilmember Kosmeyer,
Here.
Councilmember Hands,
Here.
Councilmember Caldwell,
Here.
Councilmember Leahy,
Here.
Councilmember Ryder,
Here.
Councilmember Silvers,
Here.
Councilmember Yodrich.
Here.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Next item up this evening is public items. Members of the public are encouraged to use this time to make comments about matters directly related to city programs and services. Comments related to a matter or topic in the city council agenda that is the subject of a public hearing should be provided during the scheduled public hearing and not during the public comment period. Please note individuals making public comments will be limited to 3 minutes. The city reserves the right to refuse public comments which are inconsistent with the parameters established within the governing body rules of procedures. We did have a sign-up sheet here, which is blank. I don't know if anybody was unaware that was out there, but if anyone out there would like to come forward to the podium and make a public comment, please do so at this time. Please come forward, sir. Name and address for the record.
Billy Crone, 6633 Wood Street. Stop raising our taxes and telling us you're not. The mill rate is a matter of deception. Don't appreciate it. I'll comment more later. Thank you.
Okay, is there anyone else who would like to come forward at this time? Oh, please come forward, ma'am. Give your name and address for the record. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jean Stevens. My address is 10144 West 49th Place, Merriam, Kansas. I have the same issue about raising property taxes. 4 years in a row, mine has been raised, and I'm now a woman on fixed income after being retired. And what I'd like to say is that the more that you raise that, the more that you get rid of people that have been honest, wonderful citizens of Merriam and who have paid for their house and worked very hard to have that house, and then to lose that house because the property tax is too high for them to keep up on is awful. It's not a way to treat senior citizens. The rate of Social Security is not keeping up with how much property tax is being raised. And also another thing, the more that you raise the property tax, and I want to remind everybody of this, the more that you raise that, people are trying to hold on to their house, so they're going to try to pay that personal property tax, but they won't have money to keep up their houses. So you're going to have blight on these houses because people are so busy trying to save to pay for their personal property tax that they let things go that shouldn't be neglected in these houses. And you don't want that to happen to these beautiful neighborhoods in our community. So those are the main things. Also, I agree with that guy. We have been told that we do not have them raised, and yet every single year for the last at least 4 years, and maybe higher, maybe more than that, time goes by fast. I have had a raise on mine every single year. And when I first moved to Merriam 27 years ago, there'd be 4, sometimes 5 years before a raise. So it's really ridiculous how much it's going up now. Thank you.
Thank you. Come forward. Is there anyone else that would like to come forward at this time? Okay. I see no one else coming forward. I'll close out the public portion of the meeting. Next item up is the consent agenda. All items listed under this heading are considered to be routine by the City Council, may be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless the council members so request, in which case that item be removed from the consent agenda and considered separately. We do have 2 items this evening. Does anybody wish to have one of those removed? See nothing that way. Okay, I would entertain a motion then. Okay, Mr. Silvers.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move that the council approve consent agenda items number 1 and 2.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second? Okay, go ahead, Ms. Shveta.
Mr. Mayor, second.
Madam Clerk, we have a motion, a second.
Councilmember Shavetta,
Aye.
Councilmember Kosmeyer,
Aye.
Councilmember Hands.
Aye.
Councilmember Caldwell.
Aye.
Councilmember Leahy.
Aye.
Councilmember Ryder.
Aye.
Councilmember Silvers.
Aye.
Councilmember Yodrich.
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Next item up this evening is the mayor's report. I have a proclamation that I get to read this evening, and I'm pleased to do so. I'm always honored to be able to issue a proclamation, but this one's special to me because of the individual that it's for. I want to read a little bit about somebody that has devoted a lot of years, not just he, but his entire family, to the city of Merriam. And that is one of our fire chiefs, who was our volunteer division chief, George Kendrick Mallory. We always call him George, but our Chief Mallory. But a little bit about Chief Mallory and his family. Chief Mallory has passed away, for those of you that are unaware, but he was born July 17th, 1942, and passed away July 3rd, 2026. He was born in Dayton, Ohio, alongside his identical brother, Steve Mallory, which is sitting in the audience this evening. Moving to Merriam in the late 1940s, George would join alongside his father at the Merriam Fire Department as a volunteer fireman in 1960. George would serve the citizens of Merriam until the disbandment of the volunteers in 2013. His years of dedication and passion for the fire department made him truly a pillar of the Johnson County Fire Service. He became a mentor, advocate for new members as they joined the department, making sure along the way that they knew how to be an aggressive firefighter and that the history that came with it. Members of the family who also went on to be firefighters, George K. Mallory Sr., their father. Steve Mallory, who I mentioned, is a identical twin brother. Jeff Mallory, George's son. Michelle Mallory, George's daughter. Heath Minshew, George's son-in-law. Those were all members of the Merriam Fire Department, all volunteers with our organization. Alec Minshew, George's grandson, is currently an Olathe Fire Department firefighter, and Jillian Freeman, George's granddaughter, currently works for the Kansas City, Kansas Fire Department. So that whole family has served the community and communities for many, many years, or over 53. George also served his country in the United States Navy during the Cold War on the USS Enterprise. George worked full-time away from his family and the firehouse as an airline mechanic for TWA here in Kansas City, where he retired with 40 years working in the airline fuel tanks. George would marry Sharon Ott, who's in the audience this evening with us, in 1965, and they would have the two children, Jeff and Michelle. George was a lifetime hot rodder and an active participant in local car shows and cruise nights in Merriam. His wife Sharon and him could be found with their custom 1941 Ford. And also Steve is a hot rodder as well. The whole family is virtually, and they've been at every car show that I can remember. I don't think they've missed one. What are we at, 26 years this year, Director Slocum? For 26 years, they've also been had that passion and been with Merriam. Like I say, 53 years, that's a long time. I mean, when I came on as a volunteer in 1976, he already had 16 years as a volunteer on the fire department when I joined in 76. So I've known him virtually most of my life, over 50 years. So anyway, I have this proclamation that I'd like to read, and then I will come forward and present that to the family in just a moment. So, whereas the city has learned with profound sorrow of the passing of George K. Mallory on July 3rd, 2026, and whereas George was a devoted public servant serving his country in the U.S. Navy during the Cuban Missile Crisis and Cold War, and whereas George continued to serve his community as a volunteer firefighter and EMT with the city of Merriam for 53 and a half years, retiring as volunteer division chief, and whereas George, an avid car enthusiast and talented aviation mechanic, shared his passion and talents with others, helping to restore the classic cars, and whereas George and his twin brother Steve were often seen at local car gatherings and shows around the Kansas City area and rarely missed Merriam's Turkey Creek Car Show, proudly displaying his restored 1941 Ford Coupe, winning the Mayor's Award in 2021, and whereas George will be remembered as a great storyteller, proud supporter of the firefighter community, and a fan of plaid shirts. And whereas the passing of George represents a great loss to all who had the privilege of knowing him, excuse me. Now therefore, the city of Merriam would like to honor the memory of George K. Mallory and extend our deepest sympathies and condolences to the Mallory family during this time of mourning. Respectfully submitted by the city of Merriam, Kansas, Bob Pate, Mayor. So anyway, I'd like to present this to the Mallory family. If they just come forward, I'll meet you down there. Gather if it's a line here, we're staying kind of close. So if you get in the middle here. Talk that stuff back. Photographers will let us know whether we're all in the picture or not. We may have to make 2 rows, I don't know. Let's see what they say. Okay, we're all in? Yep. Okay. Here we go. Let's give it. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Thank you. Well, it's an honor to present that to you guys. Other things, I guess, as far as I saw somebody just walk in. I'd just like to acknowledge the 2 gentlemen in the back row there, the Beaver family, John and John. We're working, and we're going to be presenting his Eagle Scout Award for too long anyway. That's coming. So thanks for coming. Okay. The other things, I always like to give a little bit about what I've done and what the council's members have been doing over the past couple of weeks. So I'll cover that at this time. I and several council members got to join our city employees for the City Selfie Day, and we got to see the new drone in action. I and a council member attended the gathering of residents in a block party that allowed Johnson County Commissioner Becky Fast to speak on county issues, allowed me to speak on what's happening in Merriam. And I can tell you there's lots of excitement out there about Trader Joe's and Aldi's, which at that time I couldn't tell when either was opening, but was September 2nd for Trader Joe's. I and several council members attended the downtown planning meeting. There was a lot of good discussions concerning what people would like to see downtown, and basically 3 different options and what each option would allow us to do. There's an online survey available that shows the 3 vision options, and I encourage everyone to take this survey and give your feedback on what direction you believe the city should pursue. I and a council member worked with Ms. Guard to develop tonight's agenda. I attended a Kansas Legislative Town Hall meeting via Zoom. All of our Northeast Johnson County representatives and senators gave updates on state issues. Several council members attended the IWPA, Inspiring Women in Public Administration Workshop. It's my understanding it was very informative and inspiring. Thank you for attending that. I understand that Ms. Chavetta has received a lot of positive affirmation of the city's direction on adding an additional crossing guard to our budget. And I'd like to give you this opportunity, Ms. Chavetta, to just tell us a little bit about what you've been hearing out there in the community.
Yeah, I just want you guys all to hear this, like Chief and everyone that worked on approving the additional crossing guards at not at Crestview, but at Johnson Drive and Goodman, and then Johnson Drive and Maston for Merriam Park and Hawker Grove students. I've heard parents at Crestview, obviously, but some of them have Hawker Grove students as well, and they've been excited to see students using that in the mornings. Amy, I'm sure you've seen a lot of kids using it too, or students using it as well. And I was at back to school night last week, and I just heard from a lot of people that are just so happy that we can let our kids feel safe walking to school and have that independence. And personally, my kid's been using it, and she's loving it. So thank you guys, and just thought that would be a fun thing to give you an update on.
Thank you for sharing. And then I understand a council member attended the Advent Health Championship PGA tournament at the Blue Hills Country Club. And would you like to speak to that, Ms. Shadridge?
Yeah, I just want to congratulate Advent Health on hosting a wonderful event all week and through the weekend. And surprisingly, not only was Advent Health a sponsor, but another Merriam company, IBT Industrial Solutions, had a spectator tent on the back nine that was where the party was at for sure. So congratulations to the winner who shot 29 under. And we had a wonderful week. Yeah.
Good. Thanks for sharing. Okay. Did I miss anything after any of the council members this evening that didn't know that might have went on the last 2 weeks? Okay. All right. Well, that will conclude the mayor's report then. Next item up, I guess, would be about public hearing. Okay. And we have Director Borth at the podium.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So tonight, we are going to be having our formal public hearing for both the 2027 budget as well as the mill rate. This is statutorily required, but you do not have to vote on the actual budget tonight if you do not want to. We do have to do the mill rate tonight, though. So everything in front of you is the exact same as we have discussed. Nothing has changed. The only difference is that I have added those two funds that I promised you, which is the new Economic Development Fund and the Town Center CID Fund. Nothing else has changed from what we have talked about in the past couple of meetings. But I'm happy to get into anything specific if you need. Sorry, I'll talk loud. So for budget highlights, in front of you, this is going to be citywide for all funds. Capital expenditures are going to be our capital projects and our equipment. And so that is going to be anything that is a major asset or piece of infrastructure. And non-capital expenditures are anything that supports our ongoing city operations and services. A lot of that is housed in the general fund, which is one of the things that you're voting on tonight because that is partially funded by property tax. The current budget supports services for our population of 11,560, which did slightly go up. And our primary focus for this year, as you're all aware, was to maintain existing services, but also try and continue our significant investment in areas that whatever council deemed a priority. So our proposed mill rate is the same that ended up being assessed. If you remember last year, we believed we were doing 26.412. What was actually assessed is that number in front of you. We have not asked for an increase or a decrease. However, this does obviously generate more revenue than the revenue neutral rate, which we'll get into a little bit more later. The budget, we did not ask for any new employees. There are no major changes to staffing levels. And then we do continue to see a really diversified and strong revenue base. Our primary revenue here is our 1% city sales tax, which means that Merriam relies significantly more on its commercial activity, more than just our property taxes. And we are seeing, unlike many of the other communities around us, our sales tax is staying very strong. So a lot of our neighbors had to look at increasing either their mill levy or other fees because they are anticipating a pullback on their sales tax revenue. We are showing that we are very strong, and I don't share these same concerns based on all of our projections. Primarily, that's due to our car dealerships staying very strong and those sales not declining at all. So we do have a large CIP investment for 2027. It is one of the heavier years that is in your plan that was in the packet and we've discussed. Much of this is going to be funded by transfers in or fund balance. Some of it, though, we really try and emphasize our grants here or working with other government agencies. We also, this is the area where our bond proceeds are housed. And so all of our different development that is coming and our expenses that are coming from this fund as well. So if you look at that fund balance and you look at planned expenditures, it does include restricted funds. We cannot use bond proceeds for miscellaneous projects. It has to be restricted based on what was approved by council. I will also say, you've already heard this, but our CIP this year does look heavier just because we had a lot of carryover projects. So you'll see many of them are from either the year before or we're seeing them from this year. We expect they will carry on to 2027. For the general fund, again, there was no major shift in any of our revenues. We are expecting everything to stay very much on trend. Some of our major sources include the community center, franchise fees, and other court fines. The way that we try and project these different revenues is just based on historical collections and current trends. We do try and go more conservative, which is why in a little bit we'll see that our fund balance typically increases year after year because we go more conservative on revenues and then we overproject slightly on expenditures because we would rather at the end of the year see a little bit of extra versus the opposite. For your general fund expenditures, this shows a breakdown from all of our major general fund departments. And so like I said, this is where primarily all of the property tax goes, which you'll be voting on tonight. This is also where a large majority of our sales tax is housed. We do have a policy that dictates that some of our sales tax can be transferred to other funds, like the CIP, and so that is done every year as well, which is in your packet under as a transfer. Okay, so now to discuss the mill rate in a little bit more detail. So like I said, our mill rate is not projected to change. Obviously, it may go down or up a little bit once final assessments come out, but what we have presented to you is 26.406. It is the same that was assessed for the year we're currently in. I will say that the difference between this and our revenue neutral rate, which is 25.855, is $1.75 per month or $21 a year for the average home in Merriam. This is a substantial amount for some people. However, we have seen a huge increase in our property tax rebate program. And if you recall, we had to increase that by $20,000 from $50,000 to $70,000 for 2027 because of its utilization and how successful that program has been. So I think there are a number of people that qualify that are utilizing that program. We do also, Merriam, I'd like to point you to the bottom. We only get about 24% of what are on people's property tax bill, and we cannot control how other agencies assess. So our portion of that is 24%, and it would be at that mill rate. For the average home, it's on here, but if you were to go with this mill rate, it would be about $1,000 annually or $84 a month. This is going to be for all funds combined. So we'll talk a little bit about fund balance, just because you do see that here revenues are a little less than expenditures. So our beginning fund balance is, like I said, this is for citywide, is at about 66 million. This is from audit numbers, and that includes estimates for 2026. Transfers are set in stone based on the budget you approve for 2026. And so we have to guess with revenues and expenditures, but this is probably a pretty good ballpark. Everything on here is for 2027. So the revenues, like I said, we try and go more conservative. And then for expenditures, we try and just add a tiny buffer in there. But I will say that staff, everyone that's responsible for each line, I've explained our process in depth, but whoever's responsible for every department and every accounting line, we go through and we audit every single one of those every single year since I've been here. So it's something where we are trying to trim as much fat as possible. We're trying to make sure there's not excessive spending, that things are being charged where they're supposed to be, that we don't have something in one fund that should be in another. So that is something that we review with every responsible party throughout the year. And then I do our revenues on my own based on the projections and historicals. But so when you see that we are going to be using a little bit of reserves at the end of the year, typically, historically here in Merriam, it is not always the case that we end up using as much fund balance as we do because of the philosophy of trying to be more conservative. But the way that I try and budget things is that looking at the need for all expenditures, making sure we do our assessment, and then the revenues, I like to do both of those independently of one another. So we're not trying to make expenditures match revenues, and we're not trying to make revenues match expenditures, because I think that's when you get in trouble at the end of the year. Instead, what we do is let those act independently of one another, see what we're left with at the end. Then I start looking at our 5-year projections and make sure that no fund that gets any of the general fund money, which also includes our CIP and our equipment reserve and our risk management fund, that all of those also have nice 5-year projections, and that none of them are dipping too low in fund balance, or we're gonna have to make an excessive transfer and not be able to do a project you may wanna do, and that anything that we have planned for is gonna be able to be funded even 5 years down the road. So after we look at fund balances, council does have a policy with the general fund target of 30 to 35%. This includes the risk management fund, which is also in your packet. We don't typically have to use too much. That's a safety net for insurance or other risk items. But just the general fund on its own after everything, even using a little bit of that reserve at the end for transfers out to the CIP and the equipment replacement fund, we are still at 35%. And then when you add in risk management, we go up to 40%. So part of my assessment and why I feel comfortable using that fund balance a little bit is because we're still well within our cushion range and well within what council and all the standards and guidelines that are out there that we're aware of say is a healthy reserve balance. So we're still at or exceeding that. And then also our other funds are in the same position. So it's not just that we're worried about the general fund and how those fund balances may play out, but we really take into account all of the other funds as well. So the CIP is funded through its full 5-year, equipment is funded through its full 10-year. Effectively, we're able to do everything service level that council has indicated they want, but also provide the same equipment and infrastructure that's needed to do those services. So with that, I'm happy to go into detail with any specific fund or department or revenue source, but this evening we are asking you to consider, after the public hearings, the mill rate of 26.406. What you would be indicating, though, is that you're okay approving the revenue neutral rate, or sorry, exceeding the revenue neutral rate. And then if you're comfortable after that, you would approve the budget, which includes that rate. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Any questions, Director Borth? Go ahead, Ms. Ryder.
I know you already went over this,
Yes.
but can you reiterate how it is possible to exceed the revenue neutral rate and still keep taxes low or decrease them like we did a few years ago?
Yes, so do you mean last year when we were able to lower the mill rate? So last year we were able to cut the mill rate by about a quarter. I think it ended up being a little over a quarter. This was primarily due to the fact that this year we lost both the courthouse sales tax, which was the literal difference in us being able to stay with the revenue neutral rate at 400,000, or us having to keep our mill rate where we're at now. So the loss of that revenue source, which goes directly into the general fund, meant that in order to maintain our current service level and be able to provide the transfers that we needed to the general fund and the equipment reserve fund, we were not going to be able to go to revenue neutral rate at that point. So something would have to give because of the loss of that revenue source, the 400,000, in order for us to just maintain what the priorities seem to be. But if it was possible, we would have tried to lower again. Yes, sir.
Go ahead, Mr. Silvers.
And just to clarify, losing that courthouse
Yes, sir.
fee was something that came down from the county, and it was not in our, in any way our ability to make that decision.
Correct. And that's why a lot of our neighboring cities are also in either the same position of not being able to lower, or they're having to raise their mill rate this year, because we all lost pretty heavily on that revenue source.
Anybody this way? Okay, go ahead, Ms. Leahy.
You didn't have the chart, but usually, like, Merriam usually falls pretty low relative to our neighbors, that our mill rate for our city is in the bottom third compared to all the rest of the surrounding Johnson County.
Yes, and we're still at the same level. If anyone from the public wants to know, we're about 5th to 6th on the peer rate, and there's about 15 people on the chart that we have. So it's all of our peers in the area. Some of them have fire that they have to account for, but our total is typically in the bottom third. You're correct.
If I could also add, just cities in Kansas, as I'm sure you're aware, are broken up into different classifications: first-class cities, second-class cities, third-class cities. First-class cities are your biggest ones, second-class cities are your middle, third-class cities are your smallest cities. There are 96 second-class cities in the state of Kansas. If you take the total mill rate in the city of Merriam, which is to say all of those taxing entities, Merriam is the lowest mill rate in the state of Kansas for second-class cities. So something we should be proud of. Always looking to do more, always looking for opportunities to make sure that we are making our residents, put them in an affordable situation. We have grants, as Director Borth pointed out, that we have lots of people are taking advantage of the opportunity that the council has provided to offset those property tax, city property taxes where appropriate and where available. So just wanted to point that out, that I think it is something that is the fact that we're able to be the lowest total mill rate in the state of Kansas for second-class cities is something that I think we should acknowledge. But thank you.
And I will say that staff puts as much emphasis since I have started here on that priority of councils to lower the mill rate when possible as we do on any of your other priorities. So if we would have been able to fit that into our proposed budget this year, it would have taken just as much of a precedent as the others.
Go ahead, Ms. Cole.
Is it appropriate to say that the issues that caused this year were kind of one-time things, and we should be back on track in future years of having, lowering
100%.
it?
The one thing that we didn't discuss, which I'm going to talk to you a little bit more about in my financial report later, is the transient guest tax loss. Because one of the other major impacts to this is we had to transfer out from a different fund that does not usually use any sort of property tax. We had to transfer out personnel and other costs into the general fund. So that was also a one-time. Hopefully we can transfer it back if transient guest tax gets back to where it should be.
You know, on the other side of the coin is that we also want all of our residents' home values to keep going up. So it's kind of hard to keep all this in balance.
Any other questions? Okay, all right.
Thank you.
With that, is there anyone from the audience that would like to come forward and speak to this issue? Please come forward, sir. Name and address for the record. Oh, I didn't. I guess I didn't say it when I hit the deal.
Officially.
Open the public hearing and please come forward.
All right, here we go. I'll be making my comments in the form of a proclamation of condemnation and demand for absolute property tax relief. Whereas the primary obligation of municipal leadership is to safeguard local neighborhoods and to ensure that long-term residents who simply desire to keep their homes and remain in their communities are not priced out by an escalating property tax burden. And whereas the city generates exceptionally strong, high-performing sales tax revenues per square mile due to a dense commercial base providing unusually robust stream of non-residential public revenue, the highest in Kansas per square mile. And whereas, despite this massive sales tax advantage, Mayor Bob Pape and the city council, city administration, I should say, have repeatedly chosen to exceed the revenue neutral rate over the last 4 years, continually extracting additional ad valorem property taxes from residential homeowners. And whereas the city, which pays no property taxes itself, has systematically and aggressively purchased tax-paying commercial properties, removing those parcels from the tax rolls and unfairly shifting the remaining municipal tax burden onto the shoulders of Merriam homeowners. And whereas, while everyday residents manage rising valuations, expanding tax assessments, and a shrinking property tax base, municipal leadership has simultaneously approved over $100 million in tax subsidies, abatements, and public incentives to out-of-town development firms. And whereas these multi-million-dollar handouts have been directly awarded to corporate entities and developers who stood as Mayor Bob Pape's two largest campaign sponsors, creating an undeniable conflict of interest and the clear appearance of a pay-to-play municipal system. Now, therefore, be it resolved that we, the concerned taxpayers, do hereby issue this proclamation of condemnation against Bob Pape and the city administration for repeatedly exceeding the revenue-neutral rate, redistributing the tax burden onto homeowners, and rewarding top campaign sponsors with public funds. Be it further resolved that we demand an immediate halt to city acquisitions of revenue-generating commercial property that shift tax burdens onto residents, along with an immediate cessation of exceeding the revenue-neutral rate. And be it further resolved that city leadership immediately end all tax abatement and public subsidy programs granted to campaign donors and out-of-town development firms, refocusing all local tax policy toward long-term home preservation and residential relief. Thank you.
Okay, would anyone else like to come forward at this time?
That's going to be a tough act to follow. Okay. To address Bruce Caddell, the problem may not be the 6.9. Maybe you can claim that our property tax has been 6.9, but every year when you get appraised for a higher amount on your home, then the property tax goes up. And every single year, my house goes up 20 to 30,000. Okay, that means I cannot afford to do a new kitchen. My kitchen's from 1984 when the house was built, because I cannot afford to redo my kitchen. But you guys think that my house is now worth 30,000, another 20,000, another 20,000. Every single year it jumps. It's not going to, because I can't sell it for that. There's no way that somebody's going to come in and look at an undated kitchen that's back from 1984 and pay $350,000 for the house. They're not going to do it. So that's the big problem. Having our property go up every single year by being appraised every single year is killing the Merriam residents, and it's killing the houses because now we're not fixing the insides. Thank you.
Would anyone else like to come forward at this time? Please come forward, sir. And please give your name and address for the record. The other two had already given it earlier, so.
My name is Stephen Allen. The address is 5031 Farley Street. In regards to the revenue neutral, I am not sure I quite understand why you cannot maintain revenue neutral based on the reserve and the fact that if I look correctly at what the county sent to us, I'm sure probably all of you received this document here, there's at least $300,000 available to you as a result of not maintaining a revenue neutral stance. Now, again, that's just based on what I'm reading here. I understand there may be some things that I'm not possibly seeing. But the point being is that based on your reserves and the fact that you have dramatically increased your expenses in some areas, I do not understand why you cannot maintain the revenue neutral position that would be at least helpful to the residents of this city. So there are other comments I have, but I'll wait until there's discussion on the budget itself or the proposal itself. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else like to come forward at this time? Okay. I see no one else coming forward at this time for that. I'll close out the public portion of that meeting for the revenue neutral rate. And unless anyone has any other questions for Director Borth, I would entertain a motion on this. Ms. Shadridge?
Mr. Mayor, I move that the council approve a resolution to exceed the revenue neutral rate.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second? Go ahead, Ms. Shveda.
Mr. Mayor, second.
Madam Clerk, we have a motion, a second.
Councilmember Cosmeyer,
Aye.
Councilmember Hands,
Aye.
Councilmember Caldwell,
Aye.
Councilmember Leahy,
Aye.
Councilmember Ryder,
Aye.
Councilmember Silvers,
Aye.
Councilmember Yodrich,
Aye.
Councilmember Shavetta.
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Looks like next item up would be the public hearing for the 2027 budget. Got Director Borth, I guess, is going to come give us that information before we open the meeting.
Yes, I don't have anything more to present, but I'm happy to answer any questions you might have specifically on the budget. There was the packet in your file that had all the different departments and funds broken out, and I'm more than happy to answer any questions about something specific if you have anything, but nothing changed from last time.
Okay, any questions, Director Borth, on the budget itself that was presented? Nothing that way? See nothing that way? Okay, thank you. Well, we'll go ahead and open up the public portion, public meeting itself, give a public hearing for concerning the budget. Anyone like to come forward at this time to speak on this topic? Are you come forward, sir?
Nine of you up there. There's 3 members of the public that showed up today to speak to you to oppose raising the rate, and you ignored them. You did it anyway. I don't think you care much to represent us, frankly, based on your actions just now that has conveyed to me. Earlier, it was said that we have huge amounts of reserves, very strong, and that the reason we need to raise the mill rate this year is because of a one-time problem that isn't going to be a problem next year. Well, if that's the case, then let's use those reserves, keep our budget low, keep it at the equal rate that the equal amount that we had spent last year, that's revenue neutral, and then we can ride it out in future years. That's what I have to say. Thank you.
Okay. So would you like to come forward again? I know you said you want to speak again.
I need the exercise, but this is a tough one.
Takes time, Mr. Allen.
One of the issues / concerns that I have is that I took from the website the budget packet that I thought was going to go to you, and I noticed in the presentation that there's a difference, that there's about an additional $1 million or so that showed up on the presentation versus what I got from the website. But again, it goes back to the issue of the reserves. You have adequate reserves, and the reason why you've reduced reserves from the prior years is because of expenditures. And again, I'm not quite sure I understand, like capital improvement with a dramatic increase. I did have the chance to review the capital improvement section of the document, but I would be extremely interested in why capital improvements increased so much. I can understand some increase, but we're talking about a pretty substantial increase, it looks like, in capital improvements. So based on that information, again, I do not understand why reserves have gone excuse me, that reserves have to be so high and that expenditures themselves have to be so high. And again, one of my concerns is capital improvements. And if the money that's being spent on capital improvements makes sense. And that's the key, does it make sense? And I hope you on the board really raise those questions. And again, I was in favor of, at least at the very minimum, maintaining the revenue neutral, but that's one of the reasons why I think you guys can do that. Because you have adequate reserves, although again, the reserves that was shown on the presentation is less than what was shown Friday. It's about, again, another $1.5 million less, but it still should be adequate if you maintain an intelligent expenditure process. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
And again, I am very curious as to why the change today versus what was on the budget Friday.
Okay. I would suggest you email our Director Borth and she'll get back with you on that.
One last comment.
Okay, yeah, yes, you have not been up here for this one. Please come forward, ma'am.
No, I haven't. Since this is a one-time thing, that we've had one-time expenditures, does that mean that once we don't have these expenditures and the budget goes back to normal, that we'll see a decrease in our property tax? I don't think so, unfortunately.
Or is there anyone else that would like to come forward at this time? Okay, I see no one else wanting to come forward this time. We'll close out the public portion of that. I would entertain a motion at this time. Ms. Shadridge.
Mr. Mayor, I move that the council approve a resolution adopting the 2027 operating budget.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second? Mr. LaHaye.
Mr. Mayor, I second that motion.
Okay, Madam Clerk, we have a motion and a second.
Councilmember Hands.
Aye.
Councilmember Caldwell.
Aye.
Councilmember Leahy.
Aye.
Councilmember Ryder.
Aye.
Councilmember Silvers.
Aye.
Councilmember Yodridge.
Aye.
Councilmember Shavetta.
Aye.
Councilmember Kozmeyer.
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Next item up is council items, approval of a bond ordinance. Who's going to be, it looks like we have Mr. Engel coming to the podium.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Next item on your agenda is approval of a bond ordinance and accompanying documents for the issuance of industrial revenue bonds with the Walser Automotive Group project. As you'll recall, in August of last year, the City Council approved Resolution Number 969 that expressed the city's intent to issue taxable revenue bonds to provide a sales tax exemption in an amount not to exceed $18,619,000 to Walser Automotive Group for their Genesis Automobile Dealership project at 7220 Frontage Road. Sales tax exemption would be on the cost of constructing, equipping, and furnishing that dealership. About a month later, there was a City Council approved Resolution 971, which assigned all the benefits that were approved in Resolution 969 from Walser Automotive Group to Walser Real Estate LLC, which is their real estate development portion of that automotive group. So that is who all of these documents are addressed to. That is the Walser Real Estate LLC. As you will recall from industrial revenue bonds past, there is no obligation for the city to pay any of those bonds. None of those bonds come from general tax dollars based on statute. There is no risk to the city in issuing those. What those do is they simply provide a sales tax exemption. The way that works is through a base lease, whereas Walser will lease their property to the city. City issues a lease back to them. The lease payments on that are actually what covers the debt issuance for Walser. Again, the city doesn't pay that, but that is how the state legislature, in their infinite wisdom, has decided they want to ride herd over the sales tax exemption process that gets presented to third parties. Per city council policy, company will pay all of the origination administrative fees upon issuance of the bonds. The company also has to pay all expenses, including the cost of publication and any other fees associated with that. You've got about 8 documents in your packet that were created by Jacob Lowry and his team at Kutek Rock, who's our bond counsel. He is in attendance this evening and would be happy to answer any of the more technical questions you may have on the IRB process and how the state of Kansas came up with that. But again, we have done this in the past. But that being said, I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Any questions for Mr. Engel? Mr. Leahy?
I just want to make sure, because I don't want anybody else to misunderstand or misinterpret. This is just the financial vehicle that we have to do in order to give them the sales tax exemption, because that's the way the state set it up for us. We are not giving the Wasler Automotive Group $18 million. We are just helping them offset the sales tax.
Correct. You absolutely correct. As a little bit of background, part of the reason that this comes down from the state is that most of the taxes that are foregone are state taxes. The tax rate is 9.475, so 6.5% of that is the state. So the majority of the incentive, if you will, comes from the state, which is why the state has authorized it per statute, is that it's really a state incentive. We are giving up 1.5% if those goods were to be bought in our community. The county is giving up 1.475% of their sales tax if those goods used for construction were to be bought within Johnson County. But yes, you are correct. That we are not giving $18.619 million to the developer.
Okay. Any other questions, Mr. Engel? Okay. I see no other questions this time. I would entertain a motion for waiving of that first reading.
I'd like to make the motion.
Okay,
Thank
go
you.
ahead.
Mr. Mayor, I move that the council waive the customary first reading of a bond ordinance issuing industrial revenue bonds for the Wasler Automotive Group project.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second? We have Ms. Shveta.
Mr. Mayor, second.
Motion second, Madam Clerk.
Councilmember Caldwell.
Aye.
Councilmember Leahy.
Aye.
Councilmember Ryder.
Aye.
Councilmember Silvers.
Aye.
Councilmember Yodrich.
Aye.
Councilmember Shavetta.
Aye.
Councilmember Kozmeyer.
Aye.
Councilmember Hands.
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Having waived that, I would entertain a motion for approval. Ms. Yodrich.
Mr. Mayor, I move that the council approve the bond ordinance issuing the industrial revenue bonds and authorize the signing of the bond documents for the Wasler Automotive Group project.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second? Mr. Leahy.
Mr. Mayor, I second that motion.
Okay, thank you. Madam Clerk, we have a motion and a second.
Councilmember Leahy.
Aye.
Councilmember Ryder.
Aye.
Councilmember Silvers.
Aye.
Councilmember Yodrich.
Aye.
Councilmember Shavetta.
Aye.
Councilmember Kozmeyer.
Aye.
Councilmember Hands.
Aye.
Councilmember Caldwell.
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Looks like next item up is Community Development Update. I know Director Dyer is itching to get to the podium.
Yeah, I got antsy there, didn't I? Good evening, Mayor, Councilmember Brown Dyer, Community Development Director. A couple of items to go over on the community development side of things. First of all, related to your previous item, the Genesis Automobile Dealership. They are getting very, very close to having a C of O. They have just a few more items left to go, so they should be opening fairly quickly.
I will say they're starting to stock the lot.
Yeah, they are. So yes, they are getting very close. Hopefully, very soon they will be generating sales tax dollars for the city's revenue. Then on the grant side of things, we're getting very close to the end of our grant season. We have a little bit of money left in the exterior grant program. So again, if someone has some project they're working on, have them get it in sooner than later, so we can potentially get them a refund on that on their work there. And then also the driveway grant program. I believe our contractor has or is getting very close to completing all the driveways this year. We have one more final inspection to do with them, and then we'll be able to close those out. And then now with the approval of the budget, we'll immediately start jumping into next year's driveway grant program. If you all remember, we send out letters in September, October to the folks who have gravel driveways. We concentrate on the gravel driveways, letting them know the guidelines, requirements to participate in the program, and then with the idea, putting together a bid packet and getting that bid packet out the first of next year for next year's 2027 driveway grant program. So we'll be starting to work on that and be sending letters out to those folks with gravel driveways. Be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Director Dyer? I see none. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, next item up is July financial update. I've got Director Borth back up.
I have nothing major to report for revenues, expenditures, or investments, but I do have, we've seen some movement on transient guest tax that I wanted to share with you. So last month's remittance for transient guest tax, we saw all hotels remit some, at least, something. So we knew there was one that was not paying at all. They remitted something. I'm not allowed to say how much, but it was not, from my examination, it was not a full amount. And then on Friday, the state issued a tax warrant to the hotel. These are public information, so I can share them with you for both transient guest tax and sales tax, but they have not concluded their formal audit yet from the delinquent period. This is for a new period, so on it you'll see it is from March, April, and May of this year. I encouraged them that the feedback I got was that they would not be able to continue paying. So they have continued to monitor this hotel this whole time that they've been auditing. So for those 3 months, there was about $100,000 that was just issued for warrants for sales and transient guest tax. Now we have something from 2 different agencies from both the county and the state saying that this property is delinquent, and so I'll let council let you know whether or not we think that triggers our policy saying that you could revoke, at least have a hearing on their business license if you so choose. But I think at this time we are probably pretty close if Ryan agrees that you could potentially act. So once their audit is officially concluded, they will also issue warrants for that period, any delinquencies. But I believe it took them a few months to get those 3 months issued. I believe it will take a little bit more time to get anything formal completed for that large delinquent period. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Director Borth?
Thank you.
Okay, I see no questions. Thank you. All right, well, next item up would be, I see no executive session this evening. Mr. Engel, do you have anything from staff?
Just that the Citizens Police Academy starts Wednesday. There's still a couple openings if folks in the public or on the council would like to sign up. Next Tuesday, September 1st, between 4 and 6, we'll have the Downtown Master Plan Public Open House. That'll occur here in City Hall. And then also for the council, the NLC conference this year is November 19th to 21st. The early bird rate expires September 1st. If anybody knows that they would like to attend or would like more information, please feel free to reach out to me. Happy to answer any questions you may have about any of those items or anything else.
Any questions for Mr. Engel? None that way? Nothing this way? Okay, thanks, sir. I have nothing else this evening. If no one else has anything, I would entertain a motion. Ms. Shadridge.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we adjourn.
Okay, we have a motion to adjourn. And Mr. Retta.
Mr. Ray, second.
Okay, Madam Clerk.
All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting's adjourned.